Bicycles with the steering column that has no external threads use what's called a threadless headset. This video will review how to overhaul these threadless headset bicycles. There are two basic designs of the threadless headsets. A cup and cone system uses ball bearings in a cage, or they could be loose, and the cartridge bearing. The cartridge bearing has ball bearings encased inside the cartridge. The cartridge headsets can sometimes creak. In that case, they'll need to come apart so the bearing seats can be cleaned and lubricated. The basic procedures are similar for the various headset types, such as ZS or zero stack, EC or external cup, and IS or integrated systems. Your exact procedure may vary depending on the make and model of your bike. When in doubt, consult the manufacturer. Begin by inspecting the headset by turning it side to side. Feel for roughness or if there's any distinct stops. This can indicate there is damage to the bearing surfaces. It's best then to get new parts. For parts replacement, see the Park Tool YouTube channel. A cartridge headset can be susceptible to creaking under load and stress. Typically, this is from contaminated or dried cartridge bearing seats. To get at the headset bearings, we need to pull the fork from the bike. Begin by noting the current number of spacers on the steering column and their placement below and above the stem. Like any procedure of taking things apart, it can help to take images for later reference. Remove the front wheel. Now detach any connections to the fork. Remove any front disc caliper brake and rethread the mounting bolts and spacers back into the fork. If there are rim brakes, loosen the cable pinch bolt and remove the cable from the bike. Free the housing from the fork as well. Remove any other accessories such as a fork lockout system. Loosen and remove the top cap bolt and cap. Loosen the stem bolts, but be ready to support the fork should it start to fall. Remove the stem and spacers and then the bearing cover from the column and pull the fork from the bike. If the fork just doesn't slide out, the compression ring may be stuck at the top bearing assembly. You may need to push with force, and if that's not working, you may need to strike the top with a mallet. Drive down, lift the fork up to relieve pressure, compression ring comes out, bearing comes off, and the fork is out. After the fork comes out, you might find your headset is a cup and cone design, or it could be a cartridge bearing. In either case, any cup or adapter simply stays with the bike. There's no reason to take it out. The same is true of the fork crown race. It just stays on the fork. Note, some forks are designed with that crown race shape built into the fork. It just fits to the cartridge bearing. No extra race is needed. Note the placement of any bearing seals and clean inside the headset cups and bearing seats. Clean the outside of the head tube as well. Clean the steering column and the fork crown race. For headsets with cartridge bearings, wipe off the outside of the cartridge. For systems using cage ball bearings, scrub the cages clean. Be careful not to bend or damage the cage. Inspect for pitting and roughness of the bearing surfaces. You can also feel these problems by tracing a pin or pick over the bearing path. The lower races tend to take the brunt of the wear and damage, but even normal riding can eventually wear out a headset. That's because headset bearings don't tend to rotate round and round like a hub. They tend to turn very little actually, and all the load tends to be on just one area of the headset. This one is not going to adjust well. Even if greased, it's not going to replace the wear. This bearing should be replaced. The cartridge bearing units are self-contained cup and cone systems. Cutting one apart, we can see the outer race has a cup shape and the inner race has a cone shape. Ball bearings are trapped between them. All this is assembled and encased together with a seal to make up a cartridge bearing. After wiping off the bearings, check them for wear and pitting. Push on the inside and rotate and see if you can feel pitting or roughness. This one does have a bit of pitting for sure. Lower bearing, same. Press on the inside, rotate a lot. A lot of pitting, a lot of roughness. Even if cleaned and greased, you're not going to replace that pitting. Both of these bearings should be replaced with new ones that are smooth and nice. For cartridge bearing headsets, grease the bearing seats to help prevent creaking. Another option is anti-seize, such as ASC1 from Park Tool. Install the bearing in the correct orientation in the adapter and on the fork crown. This would make sense. These two shapes match up. However, this other way would not make sense. Next is to install the fork, so consider your strategy. The fork will need to be held in place, so have all your parts at hand. Insert the fork into the head tube. Now the top cartridge bearing, the compression ring, the bearing cover, spacers as needed, the stem, more spacers if appropriate, and finally the top cap and bolt. Reinstall the brake and other items removed. It is now ready to adjust. Before greasing the bearings of the caged headset design, confirm the orientation of the cage. When correctly placed, only ball bearings should be riding on the bearing surfaces. In this position, the balls will contact the cup on the outside. The cone fits inside the cage and also contacts only the balls. It feels nice. If we flip the cage, the retainer is rubbing, not the ball bearings. The cone will rub on the cage as well. Testing with the cone, it does not feel as if we're riding on the ball bearings. This is the wrong orientation. So this is the correct orientation. Grease both bearing cups. Again, make sure the cages are installed correctly. Push some grease inside the cages as well. Install any seal that was present. Next, install the fork. So consider your strategy. As before, make sure all the parts are at hand. Insert the fork. Now the top bearing race. Then the compression ring. Bearing cover and spacer. The stem. more spacers if appropriate, then the top cap and bolt. Get any item disconnected attached again. It is now ready for adjustment. For cup and cone systems that use the cage bearing, the more advanced technique is to use loose bearings in the lower race. Flip the bike over like this. The lower race will have loose bearings, but still use the cage bearings. In the upper race, it's going to make the assembly a lot easier. Begin by measuring the bearing size. Pull a bearing out of the cage, use the Park Tool ruler to determine the bearing size. This one is 5/32. You're going to want at least twice as many are in the cage. Again, flip the bike upside down. Fill the cup with a thick, even layer of grease to hold the balls. Install the balls so they are laying flat and stacked one against another. Do not completely fill the cup. In fact, leave a gap for 2 or 3 ball bearings. By having this gap, the balls can move around and not be stuck in the same place, wearing and rubbing the cup only in one spot. Install the seal, if any. Leave the bike upside down. Grease the top cup and grease the cage bearings. Install the cage in the correct orientation. The assembly is the tricky part of the process. Once the fork is installed, it should not be lifted away from the bearings even for a moment. Doing this will likely jumble the bearings and you will need to start over. Carefully install the fork from above. Now hold it down snug to the bearing cup. Install the top race again, holding the fork secure. Now the compression ring and bearing cover. Remember to keep the fork fully in contact with the lower cup. Bearing cover, spacer, and stem as needed. Rotate the bike over. Finish the assembly of any spacer and top cap and top bolt. Reinstall the other parts you disconnected. The headset is ready to adjust. There are bike designs that run cables through the headsets. Parts replacement on a headset like this are going to be very time consuming, and we're not covering that in this video. However, if it's creaking, there may be a service option. It may be possible to lower the fork enough to get at the cartridge bearings. Clean the bearing surfaces and bearing seats and apply lubrication and reassemble. Bike assembled, it's time for adjustment. Adjustments are covered in detail on our Park Tool YouTube channel, but here are the quick basics. We take the top cap and we tighten it when the stem bolt is loose to remove play. First, grab the front brake, rock it back and forth, and feel for knocking. You'll feel a knocking sensation at the top cap or in the fork. Move the top cap down by loosening the stem bolt. Come to the top cap. 1/8 of a turn, not much. Check the stem alignment. If it's good, secure, one last check, play is gone. We can now fully secure the stem bolts to the appropriate torque. The headset's now overhauled and ready to show you the way. Thanks for joining us on how to overhaul a threadless headset. Check out our other videos at our YouTube channel. Thanks.